Test, 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 test.
We're going to call the board meeting in order to at this time, and I would ask Commissioner Latvala to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We do have 2 consent items on the agenda. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have an action item, and it is to approve the removal of our surplus and obsolete inventory, and that will be done by Ms. Laura Pill. Good morning. Laura Peel, Director of IT, and this morning I'm seeking approval to remove surplus and obsolete inventory. As you may know, JWB equipment is evaluated twice a year, semi-annually, for its usefulness and whether it meets current needs. Once we have that list together, we bring it to the board, and it's actually on the back of your memo. And this year you can see, or this time you can see, the net book value of every item is 0. You'll notice that some of them don't have purchase dates or purchase price. That's actually because many of those items were donated to us from Chase Bank back when we were in the 66th Street building, so 20-something years ago. Yeah, so they're a bit outdated. So pending board approval, JWB offers these items to JWB-funded agencies first, if they're still workable. The remaining items are donated to other 501c3s if they're not wanted, and then all other items are disposed of either through recycling or waste. So unless there's any questions, that's what we have today.
Do you have can you pop that up on the screen just so we can see it? Because we don't have it.
Oh, it's not in the
I'm not
back?
seeing it. I don't see it.
Oh. I don't.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, I
No,
apologize.
it's not important.
So
That's
I
okay.
thought it was in the back. I can tell you basically
It was in the
what's-
packet. No, it was in the packet.
Okay, I mean, I can kind of go over what's on here if
No,
you'd like.
it's fine. I just thought it would be
Yeah, I
good to have
apologize.
it,
And you
but-
know what? I will bring it up next time, just in case.
not a problem.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I've seen it in the packet. I just thought maybe it would be worth having.
Yeah, it's actually a shorter list than usual. Laptops we replace about every 3.5 years based on warranties, some furniture. Shorter list than usual.
And since I've caused the issue, I'll motion to approve.
Did you second, Mr. Hendry? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I will make sure it is up on the screen next time.
Oh, there it is.
Took me a second, I apologize.
So does anybody have any questions or? Okay.
Next,
Thank
we
you.
have our presentations for our FY25 budget and forecast by Beth Houghton. And it says Diana Caro.
But she's not here, so you just get me.
Okay.
Kristen, can I have the clicker? I'll do it from here. Well, it continues to be that time of year. So we presented most of this, or certainly a summary of this to you at our last board meeting. The process and the timeline is that, there we go, is here in some detail. The orange highlighted pieces are those where the board takes action. We have a number of internal deadlines, and we have deadlines relative to getting information to the property assessor. Yeah, I think that's right. Relative to the trim notices that have to go out in August. So we sort of back up from that timeline. So today we're just presenting the budget in its current state to you. And then the Finance Committee will meet in a week, and our board policy says they will review it and make a recommendation to the board. So that recommendation will occur then, and the July board meeting is where the board will finalize the millage and the total budget in order to go into trim notices in August, with September being the trim hearings. Just to give you a little bit of history, for many years, our millage rate was at the 0.8981. Two years ago, in 2023, we were able to reduce millage to 0.8508, and then last year reduced it to 0.8250. And the thinking at that point in time was that we could do that for at least 1 year, but then we would probably increase it back to 0.8508. However, it would appear that we're not going to have to do that. We can keep the millage where it is, which is really sort of the headline for all of this. So just to show the fiscal year 23 millage rate reduction to 8,508 was the first time we had changed millage in a decade. And the fiscal year 24 second year of reduction was I don't know who knew this, but is only the second time in 35 years that the millage rate was reduced for 2 consecutive years. This chart really shows the dark sections are our the tax and other revenue, and the lighter piece above it is our fund balance. And I would just point out that 3 months' worth of that fund balance is required by policy to be kept for working capital and a cushion for contingency. So not all of that fund balance is actually available to be spent down. However, we've been looking at responsible ways to spend that fund balance for the benefit of children and families in Pinellas County, and yet not put ourselves in a position where we have such significant losses on an annual basis that out 3, 4, 5 years, we would have started programs or funded programs only to have to slash them. This gives you an idea of the ad valorem revenue adjusted for inflation. You know, you can tell in 11 and 12, 10, 11, and 12 in particular, with the Great Recession, those numbers dropped considerably, and JWB had to slash a lot of programs. It was, by all telling, it was not a fun time all the way around. And there were programs that were needed in the community, but we just didn't have the money to fund them all. But you can tell going forward, when you adjust for inflation, our tax revenues have been basically flat for the last several years. Fiscal year 25 budget revenue, keeping an 8,250 millage would be $108 million, an increase of $9 million from the prior year. Interest, we estimate, and you know, if you guys can tell me what you know the interest rate to be next year, anyway, we make a stab at it, but we think it'll be around 2.7 million, and you may remember, 3 and 4 years ago it was virtually nothing, so that bounces around, and then contributions really are like sponsorship dollars and other things that relate to our events. Program expenditures, you may remember that earlier this year, you approved some significant increases to our current programs, primarily to deal with significant increased expenses they have with both personnel and insurance. There were some other reasons, but as you all are probably painfully aware in your own spheres, insurance costs have gone up tremendously. And there were several organizations that had not been able to take advantage of workforce stabilization increase in salaries for their employees that were really struggling to retain employees. And so that accounted for most of the rest of that. Well, that was, there was about 400,000 of that actually was an increase to the current year budget. Some of the rest of it was in lapse dollars, but the larger component really hits the fiscal year 25 budget of, I think, around $4 million. So that is embedded in that 112 million that you see. We are projecting a request for, what's RFA? Request for application, thank you. For capital and technology, which we've been able to do most years. This last year, our amended budget was $2.9 million. We have $3 million in new dollars budgeted for fiscal year 25. The other $200,000 relates to an agency where they weren't, this year, they're not going to be able to spend the $200,000 that we awarded them, and so we will roll that piece over to next year. It was part of or reliant upon a construction process that got pushed later, and so the piece that we funded was not going to be able to be spent in this year. One of the things we did in this budget, at a much more detailed level that you won't see for the most part, is we looked at where we have contingencies, and I would kind of say contingencies upon contingencies. So internally, as well as with our funded agencies, we're really trying to move towards right-sizing our budget so that we have a better idea of, so that what we budget is closer to what is actually spent. Because not only were agencies lapsing dollars, but internally we were lapsing dollars. A small example, but one I'd lift up would be a given department would say, yes, each of these 5 people need to go to this conference or this training, and they would budget for all the pieces and parts of sending all 5 people. Well, by and large, it never happens that way. 3 people make it, or somebody's got a conflict or whatever. But we always budgeted everything at full value. So our budget folks worked with departments and units across the agency to try to look at real past spending patterns and try to reduce what we budgeted. And so that's been helpful. The other piece was we realized the board policy relative to fund balance is that we have the 2 months fund balance just for cash flow, for working capital. And the 3rd month that board policy requires that we have is really in the spirit of contingency and things bouncing around. Well, in addition, we have been budgeting for $500,000, some years past it was $1 million, for contingency specifically. And we kind of realized we don't need, $500,000 is far less than 1 month's expenditures. We don't need to have both of those. I mean, we sort of over budgeted contingency, and so we took that out. FTEs in this coming year, we're adding 6 people, 3 of those really related to our community efforts and campaigns. So for instance, one of those would be dedicated to the preventable child death effort, in particular, Sleep Baby Safely. That's been expanded to, 17 other counties, maybe more than that. And even though those counties or their Department of Health or the state or somebody else is paying for the core costs for those, we've had to expend a fair amount of time just in technical assistance and supporting getting all of those materials and learnings and so on out to all of those. It's a great program. It makes a huge difference. But we've found ourselves constrained to people who have 3 full-time jobs here, also supporting a very effective campaign like that. Similarly for Turbo Babies, it's taken off tremendously, but for it to reach all the people we would hope it to reach, that's cultivating partnerships with all the folks who touch new parents and their kids, and it just takes more effort than we had budgeted for in terms of staff. So fully half of the FTEs relate to program work. The other 3 relate to continuing to manage well the 99 programs that we fund. So there is 1 each in the fiscal monitoring, in the program department, and in evaluation to be able to just to keep up with those 99 programs. When we added additional programs a few years ago, I think we did not budget as we should have for the additional people it was going to take to manage those programs. And we found ourselves getting sort of further behind and not doing some of the more value-added work that those people are capable of doing. Operating dollars actually go down, which is a reflection of what I talked about before. Some of it is that we had some significant amounts budgeted this year, the current year, for new information technology and things we hadn't yet procured and really had very little idea of what they would cost. And so we over budgeted for some of those, and they don't recur in the fiscal year 25 year. And in addition to that, we have significant amounts that unit by unit, department by department, they reduced their budgets to more accurately reflect the expenditures they're really going to have. So, you know, even though we've got inflation, we will have COLAs and so on for our staff, the actual operating dollars goes down from fiscal year 24 to 25. This is way busy. I did not expect anybody to read it from here. We did, however, put a copy at your place. We're going to go through this in a great deal more detail with the Finance Committee. What I will point out is, if you look at the fourth column from the left, proposed fiscal year 25, that reflects the budget that we will be proposing. You can see the revenue and the interest income we already talked about. The program COLAs and workforce stabilization dollars are listed there. The Tampa Bay, the most recent Tampa Bay inflation figure was 3.7%, and that historically is what we've used for our COLAs to look at what inflation really is in Tampa Bay. So that's the number used both for our programs and for our staff. Now, what we did this year is return to a pre-COVID practice of adding COLAs to programs in tiers depending on what their lapse was. So if their lapse was less than 10%, they receive a full COLA of 3.7%. If it's between 10 and 15%, they receive half the COLA, or 1.85%. And if it's over 15%, we did not grant a COLA. The theory, which doesn't always hold out, I would tell you, is that if they're not able to spend their current contract, why should we be adding dollars to their contract? Now, the fallacy, I'll tell you, can be, and why you've seen workforce stabilization dollars, is that you can have sort of a downward spiral for an agency. For instance, their salaries, given our contract, do not enable them to have salaries at market or anywhere close to market. So then they're not able to either hire or retain people. They can't hire and retain people, so they have greater vacancies and they don't spend the contract dollars. So, you know, on the one hand, you would say, well, why add money to their contract if they're not spending it? But if that dynamic that I just described is occurring, they actually need more budget dollars in order to increase their salaries to be closer to the market. And we've seen across multiple sectors that we fund really significant increases in what the market is. You know, everything from early learning folks who can get more money going to work for Target or someplace in the retail environment than in looking after our kids, to behavioral health and mental health professionals who our agencies are still competing against a private market that is in many ways easier, can be virtual all or part of the time. So in order to keep a staff available to provide the behavioral health support in all kinds of programs, not only the direct programs we have with agencies like Directions for Living or Suncoast, but also embedded, for instance, Kevin Hendrick and I were talking the other day about the school-based health clinics have a component that we assist in funding for behavioral health services within the schools, and how helpful and meaningful that has been. So it's embedded in a lot of different places. So that's what we're doing with our COLAs. But as I said, some of the dollars that you approved earlier this year that are embedded in that almost $111 million of program continuation include sort of targeted increases so that we can keep people in place and lower our vacancies. Already talked about the capital RFA. The next number that I think is really meaningful is projected surplus or loss. It's the negative of almost $2.9 million. That would be the budgeted cash loss, if you will. In other words, it accounts for all of the budgets, but it also accounts for lapse to what we really expect. And this is what will actually reduce fund balance. And you can see that across the forecast, from that being $2.9 million, and then 3.1, 3.9, and then moving down a little bit. By the time you get to the end of this forecast, fiscal year 29, and you look at that green colored box that's 8.25%, that is that reflects that third month of cash within our fund balance that we would keep. And 8.33% is the equivalent of 1 month. It's just 1 divided by 12. So 8.25% is close, and that would be, our target would be that your target would be that we're at least 8.33% or higher in that year. As forecast, we're pretty close to that. But you also note in fiscal year 29, we have a surplus or a loss, in this case a loss of $2.7 million. We can't do that indefinitely. So while we want to reduce fund balance, we need to do so in a fairly measured way, because none of us want to do is begin funding a program, for instance, which would reduce fund balance, only in 2 or 3 years to have to terminate that contract. These are resources that the community learns to rely on, and that doesn't make any sense. So that's why you still see more fund balance, if you will, than we would otherwise like to see in these early years of the projection. But there is this plan of reducing that, and as every year comes and we look at every year's budget, we'll be looking at it fiscal year 30 and fiscal year 31 and so on, and we'll need to make adjustments, but we'll have time to make those adjustments so that it's not like falling off a cliff. The percentage we received from the property appraiser, or I guess from the state's revenue estimating conference, is that in Pinellas County they expect property values for this coming fiscal year to increase by 9.3%, 9.31. They did not change the out years of fiscal year 26 through 29. So we're using the best numbers that we have. But again, I think all of us would fully expect that over the next few years we're going to see those numbers bounce around. We just don't know in which way and in what pace. The millage is, what's proposed is a millage of 0.8250. We're assuming interest rate this coming year of 5% on our invested funds. In the salaries, we are projecting a 3.7% COLA, but we are also realizing internally that we will have vacancies. And so we are also budgeting for a 2.5% reserve or contra account for our salaries. And so it's the 3.7 minus the 2.5 that gets you to the 1.2. But I don't want to misspeak relative to what the COLAs would be. Those are really the key pieces. I would also mention that instead of using a single percentage in calculating the lapse for each year from a program perspective, we've realized that lapse is significantly different in year one of a program, year two of a program, and then ongoing. And so because we differentiate in our budgeting between new programs and existing and ongoing programs, we've calculated that lapse for each of these years using the history we have of what happens year one, year two. And so we've segmented those in our calculation of the lapse. So in the upcoming fiscal year, we're projecting 13% for ongoing programs, and then it is our hope to move down to closer to 10% by the end of this period. We'll see. That continues to be difficult, but we are certainly striving to do that, as I know the board has wanted us to do. Really already talked through the fund balance and the lapse projections. So our recommendation will be to maintain the current millage rate of 0.8250 in fiscal year 25, and this forecast projects the same rate all the way through the forecast period. We've talked about COLAs for our programs, program continuation. The $4.2 million is the amount you all really approved for us to begin, but that would hit the fiscal year 25 budget. This will be our last year of our strategic plan, and new and expanded programs we budgeted for $415,000, which will be the startup time for one new quality early learning site, which is something the board has really continued to want us to do. We talked about the capital requests, and then the net administrative increase. And I didn't point out, but we do always look at what percentage or what our administrative rate is. And this next year with the proposed budget, it would be 7.21%, and it doesn't go over 9% during the time period. And the board's stated limit is 10%, which makes good sense. So the key pieces that will happen next, and the two recommendations that we make and then end up eventually in the trim hearing, are what the millage rate is and what the budget amount, the proposed budget amount is. So the millage rate we're proposing is the 0.8250, and then a proposed budget of $165 million, which is a little misleading only because the way we carry forward the fund balance as funds available, and so of that 165, 54 million of that is the estimated roll forward of the fund balance. So the next steps will be certification of the fiscal year 25 taxable values from the property appraiser. So we've been dealing with estimates up till July 1st. And then July 18th will be the board meeting where we hope to have an approved millage rate and budget for the fiscal year 25 year. So with that, just open for questions.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to emphasize and appreciate the reduction of the fund balance over years and the planned emphasis of that so that we get the money out to the programs. I think it's thoughtful, and I think the idea of showing how it's going to be sort of what the target is in 29 is a good plan. So thank you for those efforts. I know we had a lot of discussion about that last year.
Next, we will move on to the outline of the proposed strategic planning process by Ms. Houghton and Dr. Mary Grace Duffy.
All right, well, I'll speak from here, and Mary Grace, you can go up to the podium. Is Mary Grace here? Yes? Here we are, okay. I'm just going to quickly introduce what we're talking about. We are, amazingly enough, fiscal year '25 will be the fifth year of a 5-year strategic plan. So we have been planning to plan. Mary Grace and Barbara Morrison Rodriguez and I in particular, and all of the executive team and others within our organization are beginning the work that they need to do in order to make recommendations and include significant input from this board as we go forward and look at our next strategic plan. One of the things I'd highlight that is different or new in this strategic planning process is that we are including the work of a foresight consultant within our work. The term that used to be used more was futurist, and it looked a little more like a parlor game of guessing, what the world would be like in 10 years or 50 years. 50 years always worked well for these folks because nobody was going to be around in 50 years, or they wouldn't remember. But it has grown to be, in many sectors, certainly also the government sector, a key part of strategic planning to look at the likely drivers of change in the out years, and our time frame for that would be more like 10 or 15 years. How will it be? What are the impacts of the larger societal and physical changes that we're going to see, and what impact might that have on our work, on the folks we serve, as well as how we do our own work. So the county, for instance, has engaged as part of their strategic planning, the scenario planning, and look out to the future relative to likely drivers of change and things that would impact the work of the county. We pay attention to what the county does because a lot of good practices that we can adopt. So we are in the process of procuring that consultant. That work would happen earlier in the process with a plan for report to this board and a time for discussion with this board at its December meeting. So I just wanted to highlight that because it's different than some of the other elements and processes we've used before or that you might or might not be familiar with. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary Grace, and we have this graphic that will help you. We have it up there, but you've also got it at your desk.
Great. Thanks, Beth, and good morning to everyone. I'm delighted to be here. This is actually the fourth strategic plan for JWB that I've worked on. And I was talking to Mike a little bit earlier before the meeting started, and I think at this point, there are probably only 3 or 4 board members who have been involved in the 3 previous ones. And so a couple of things about the previous ones that I want to say is that with each successive plan, they have become more disciplined in terms of how we actually create that plan, and also more disciplined in terms of how then that plan is used and how JWB is holding itself accountable to that plan. And I'm expecting, and I think Beth is expecting, that this plan will not deviate from that it will be a very disciplined approach, that it will come up with something that is really important for JWB to be doing in the next 5 years, and that it will be a mechanism to hold JWB accountable and to really make good decisions about the investments that will be coming out of that. You just heard a whole budget presentation, and that financial piece is so important. And it's also important to remember that that is the foundation for the work that JWB is going to be doing. And therefore, it involves a lot of choices. And this plan, both the current one and we're very much expecting that the one that's coming up will really reinforce that foundation and really help you make good and even better decisions about the investments going forward. Always like to say about JWB, you know, JWB can do almost anything, but it can't do everything. And so at some point, you're going to have to make some hard choices, and we really think the process that we're putting in place is going to help you make those choices. So what I want to do for just a few minutes is, you do have this kind of busy slide, this flow chart, but I just want to go through this and talk about why we have the activities in there that we have. So this flow chart does a couple of things. One, what it does is it outlines a process with key milestones. So what you're going to see in those kind of center pieces like snapshot of the current situation, strategic vision, et cetera, those are milestones. Those are places where you need to arrive in order to go successfully to the next step. And then what precedes that are the inputs into achieving that particular outcome or that particular milestone. What you're also going to notice as you look at this is that visually, the chart expands, and then it contracts, and then it expands again, and then it contracts. And the reason for that is because a good strategic planning process really involves a lot of expansive thinking and then a lot of focus. And then at that new point of focus, you again want to expand your thinking and then bring it back together. And that again goes back to that notion of you want to look at the everything, although only briefly, because if you did it too long, you wouldn't get anything done. You want to look at the everything, but then you really want to look at what are your choices? What are you doing there? And within that choice, what are your choices again? So that kind of process of expansion and contraction is really a hallmark of a good strategic planning process. The other thing is really achieving these milestones successfully so that you build the foundation for the next one. So the first milestone that you want to achieve is a snapshot of the current situation with that. And one of the things that we know about the current situation or getting there is it takes a lot of inputs. And it's not enough to simply say, well, what's always been true is true today. I mean, Beth talked about the foresight work that's going to happen. So the three kind of big pieces of information that we use to create that snapshot of a current situation is one, JWB baseline information. So, you know, at the last meeting, Beth and I talked about what's your current funding methodology. That's an input. That's a piece of information, baseline information. You may decide to change that, but now you know what you're moving from. Likewise, what is the current funding profile? You know, how much progress have you made in this current strategic plan? Where did you start and where are you today? Or, because we always have to look retrospectively, at least at the point that you're looking at, which is not exactly today, with that. What about performance data? How well are programs doing or not doing? What are they achieving or not achieving? So all of that is part of your baseline information, along with all of the financial information that you get, you know, everything that goes along with that as a board that you want to be looking at. The next piece is stakeholders' perspectives. You know, and to do this, we'll conduct some focus groups. We're going to interview everybody on the board. We will be able to have meetings with providers and end users, governmental entities, et cetera. And I want to say at this point in time, it's not that we want to push people to have the same perspective. What we want is to know what their perspectives are. So it's not important that there be agreement at this point, but it is important to know where there isn't agreement and where there is, because that's going to influence some of your thinking going forward. So we want to pull all of that out from a pretty broad group of people. And then we want to look at the larger environment. So children and family data, and again, you know, Karen will be doing a lot with her group around really helping you understand the current programs. Barbara and her staff will really help you understand what data is out there. I mean, we have a lot of, between census data, demographic data, financial data, I mean, you can go through it. But they're going to really help to sort through that and figure out what is important for you as a board to see, for the people who are putting the plan together to do that. So there's a combination of both compiling that data and analyzing it. Because we want to take it from being a point of data to being a real point of information with that. I also want to look at some promising practices that may be happening outside of Pinellas County, outside of Florida, but they are things that can, again, begin to help us think about where do we want to be. And finally, then doing a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for JWB. All of that is then pulled together into a briefing document that creates a snapshot of the current situation. None of us will be experts in all of those data points and those entries, but we should have a level field in terms of having enough information that we can have some robust conversations going forward. And we may find, so now we have this snapshot of a current situation, and so again, you've seen where we focused in, we've created that. Now we're going to expand again and think about, one, is there any additional information that we need? And this is a point we have to be careful. You don't want to get into analysis paralysis, you know, that you keep asking for information and asking for information, you don't do anything with it. But you also want to be sure that you have enough information to be making good decisions. We also have an opportunity for debate and consensus. Because remember, what you're trying to create is a strategic vision and a direction that people are excited about. What we know from a lot of different writing and practices is that the only way a strategic plan is really successful, or that process is successful, is if you can tell the truth about today, that's the current situation, and you can have a compelling vision of the future. And you really have to be able to hold both of those simultaneously. But to get there, before you can hold them simultaneously, you got to have the two pieces. So we've had the current state or the current situation, and now with thinking about going forward with the strategic vision, this is where debate and consensus comes in. So Beth mentioned the foresight presentation. That's going to be really helpful. It's not going to be proscriptive. It'll be descriptive. Here's what we understand are trends that are coming down the road. Here what we understand are some options you might have. Here are some scenarios you might deal with. So again, it's descriptive of the future, it's descriptive of how things may evolve, but it's not proscriptive, telling you what you're supposed to do. There will be an opportunity for you as a board to have a workshop where you can really engage with that information and think about it. Think about alternative scenarios as a catalyst for developing strategic options. I shared with Mike this morning that, you know, I had a client about a year or so ago, very, very successful organization. And as we were doing planning with them, the CEO kept saying, what got us here is not necessarily going to get us there. And that's the question you have to be asking and talking about as you're doing this piece of developing a strategic framework and vision. And then within that context, this is where you begin to have conversations about what are your strategic issues? Do you want to keep the same result areas you have now, or do you want to change those? The current plan added 0 to 3 as a result area. That was not in previous plans. And I just want to remind you, you know, I know you all love turbo babies, as you should. We wouldn't have that if we didn't have a result area of 0 to 3. So your result areas are important because they really help you focus your work. You know, where do we see gaps or community needs? Are we going to scale up programs that are really working? Are we going to scale back some that maybe aren't working as well? Do you want to discontinue programs? Do you want to add programs, new initiatives? Those are all strategic questions that you have. And as we said at the last meeting, Those will be asked and answered within the context of the criteria you've talked about. What's the JWB mission? What are community needs? What kind of ROI are you looking for? So this isn't going to come out of the blue. It will have something that fits together. So at this point, you have the strategic vision, and you can indeed hold those simultaneously of thinking about what's the current state and where do we want to be. And at that point is when you can actually start to draft and redraft a plan. You're going to have goals and strategies and milestones and indicators of success. But you also have to say, are we able to do this? What are the resource requirements? Is it feasible? Is it going to meet the financial investments that we want to make? Do we have the capacity to deliver on this? So all of those questions have to be asked at that point in time. And that's why it's an iterative process, because you'll start with something and say, that's a wonderful idea, I love it, but I don't think we have a snowball's chance of doing that. And this is where you're able to really match innovation and implementation, because you can have that idea, you can have those what-if conversations, I wish we could conversations when you're doing the debate and consensus. And when you end up with something, in this phase, you can really think about, okay, that's a wonderful goal or a wonderful direction. How do we make it feasible enough that we can actually accomplish it and still have some innovation and stretch, as it were, in that? And again, we think about the criteria of, flexibility, adaptability, being able to evaluate all of that. That's all part of it. When that draft or drafts are finished, they will then come to you for review, possibly reviews. You may want to have more than one look at it, multiple looks at it. And then ultimately your ratification, yes, this is the plan we support. And then again, it gets turned back to Beth and her staff to really develop the implementation plan that would go with it. So this is about a 14, if we think about what we've already done, it's about, a 15-month process. And Beth's going to go through that timeline with you. But I didn't know if anybody has any questions about this first, or Beth, if you'd prefer that we leave them to the end. Okay, so the timeline. I will. I'm just going to turn off my mic.
Microphone. This is a very rough and high-level timeline. There are a lot of pieces underneath this. But we have been working on this and the discussions we've had with Mary Grace for a few months, and so that's developing the process for strategic planning. Then we are also already beginning some of the pieces of analyzing the current state. So for instance, our great data person who works for Laura Peel, Michael Havelka, is already looking out to census data and will no doubt be talking to people at the school district and other places that have data that could be informative to us. And then, of course, it goes through a whole variety of other activities, including focus groups and so on. So that particular activity goes through January. And then in that later time period, we would create the brief or the summary of the current state to be completed by the end of February. We would be looking at the implications of current and future states for JWB to be completed by, say, probably mid-March. Begin developing that strategic plan, direction and framework in the February to March, primarily the February timeframe. Parallel to the work that Mary Grace talked about, we will also be analyzing and assessing our internal JWB capacity. So some of that we can begin doing earlier. Some of it will then be informed by, well, what's the likely work we're doing in the community, and therefore what capacity do we need to have internally, whether that's IT or staffing or whatever. And then, as Mary Grace talked about, we'll have this major check-in with financial feasibility of, here are all these possibilities, but in this particular time, we're going to be looking at what the financial implications of a proposed plan would be, and are they realistic, and if not, what are we going to adjust? And then developing drafts of the strategic plan with the goal of approving the final strategic plan in April or May of next year. The plan would begin the following October. So if we can get that approved in April, that will inform the contracts and the budgets that we propose for our agencies, and we usually do that in early May, and our own budgeting process for the fiscal year 26 year. So that's sort of why that end date of this process is in April and May. And then I just open it up for questions to either Mary Grace or me.
Not really a question, but since I think I'm probably the only one that has sat through 2 of these already that are still here on the board, and assuming that I get reappointed, if not, I'll still be here probably. But I think the layout is perfect, and it's probably the closest to being able to go to a whiteboard and starting over. What's most interesting to me is that as I've gone through the other 2, things have changed dramatically. Things have really, life has changed dramatically. Our kids have changed dramatically. And I think we're even at the point of potentially needing, and I say this potentially, so don't jump up and scream at me, potentially redefining what child welfare really is. What it is today to all of us. Sleep Baby Safely, Turbo Babies has crossed the line. Mm-hmm. It has taken us into a totally different realm. And so I'm really looking forward to going through this, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what others think about where we can be or what we might be, because again, from my perspective and what I've seen and where we're headed, I believe that there's going to be, I'd say, a pretty dramatic change in how JWB operates, what we'll be thinking about, what will be here going forward, what won't be here going forward as we move into the next 5 years. So I'm looking very forward to this. Strategic planning is one of my favorite things. So
We share
I
that.
just really I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really happy that we have a staff here that understands those things, and not only understands it, but knows how to implement what goes forward. So I'm ready.
And I would just say, kudos to JWB, because the capacity that staff have today is so much bigger and sophisticated, I don't know what other better word to use for that, than it was when I was involved in the first one, which now is probably 12, 15 years ago. Was it 2013 you said, Mike? Yeah, and it might have even been, there might have been one before that. So it's night and day. So the ability to do the kinds of things that Beth talked about and are in that chart really didn't exist the first time around. And that's what I was saying about both the process and the ability to do the process and then implement what comes out of that has just gotten so much better over the years. And I suspect that this will be yet another example of that.
Any more comments? Good to see you, Mary Grace. Thank you all. Great to see you. Next, we do have the Arts for Life Academy, Inc. update by Ms. Houghton and Karen Bogus.
I'm going to hand it over to Karen, but I'm available if needed.
Good morning, Karen Bogus, Chief Program Officer. This is a follow-up from our last board meeting in May. I do want to acknowledge that Gloria Campbell, Board Chair for Arts for Life, is in the room, as well as Jay Hinson, Executive Director for Arts for Life, is also here. Since our last board meeting, both the leadership from JWB as well as Arts for Life have met several times. And attached, you will find the financial monitoring report as well as the updated corrective action. The updated corrective action has been extended through April 30th of 2025. Why that is because we are looking for the next audit, which would be available as of March 31st, 2025. So we have placed the steps from now until April 30th in place, some deliverables and monitoring activities that will take place from now until April 30th. The first beginning, they will have a mid-year financial monitoring report in October. So both a visit and a report will come out of that, and we can update the board in November. We also have decided to issue a 7-month contract with Arts for Life starting October 1st, and it will be in alignment with the corrective action through April 30th. If at all during that time period, any of the items or deliverables are not met in a timely manner and are not in full compliance, we may be making a decision in terms of needing to terminate that contract. If they are in compliance and meet all by April 30th, we will be looking to potentially extend that contract for the remainder of our fiscal year. Everything is attached, so I open it up for questions.
Any questions? I do have a comment. I had to leave when this whole process started at the last board meeting, so I do want to say to the board member and to Ms. Simpson, thank you for coming back today, and to the JWB staff, I say thank you for meeting with Arts for Life. They do great work, and so I'm hoping that in all of this, this will work itself out.
Thank you.
And that of course, is absolutely our hope. And we've tried to put things in place that will get us there.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much again. I just wanted to take a minute to thank Beth, to thank the Board of Directors, to thank the amazing JWB staff for helping us to identify some of the things that we need to strengthen the organization and working with us to make sure that these things are accomplished. We just hired our center director, so he's at the center working, so I'm just kind of learning to let some things go. And I want to thank you for the ASO. They've been doing an amazing job, and we've had a lot of conversation with the staff, and we have been working together to make sure any questions are answered. And so all of these things together are coming to help strengthen the organization and also strengthen our capacity to be able to serve our youth, our families, and our community in a better way. So I just want to take 1 second to just thank everyone.
Next, we have the Turbo Babies Anytime is Turbo Time video, and then we'll have Ms. McCurrack and Alicia Henson take it over.
Okay. Well, good morning again, everyone. I'm excited to share our new Turbo Babies campaign video titled Anytime is Turbo Time. The video depicts the power of play and features the key messages and real-life examples of everyday activities parents and caregivers can do with their babies. These are easy-to-do activities promoting early connections, fostering healthy development, and supporting a baby's natural drive to learn. It's important since 80% of the brain's growth happens by age 3. Last month, we unveiled the video at the opening of our new Turbo Babies exhibit at Great Explorations Children's Museum. As babies explored and played the tiny Explorer's Lagoon, our video will play on a loop on the wall monitors. Our goal is for parents to learn a little about the early brain science, understanding the 4 turbo tips, and model the behavior we want them to practice every day with their little ones. If you haven't had an opportunity to go see this, to go to Great Explorations, take your grandkids, take your kids, it's amazing. And to watch what I saw, to watch the staff children playing and having just an amazing time and learning and actually teaching their parents on how to help them grow and expand their visions was just simply amazing, not to say anything else. And now, what I'd like to do is have a few words from Alicia Hinson, who works tirelessly to bring this campaign to all the families and creates a unique partnership. In a few moments, you'll see why we call her the face of the campaign.
Thank you, Mr. McCurrick, and good morning to the board. I am absolutely thrilled and excited to share the new video. As you can imagine, the production was a bit challenging. It was fun, but it was a bit challenging, right? We have 0 to 3s on a video set, so they're all over. Our families who participated were incredible. So I'd like to give a special thank you. We'll see another familiar face in a few seconds to Laura Peel and Jamie Cole and little baby Owen. Our hope was to make this fun and entertaining, to kind of break through the noise and capture parents' attention. And we hope that this also brings a good balance of education and entertainment. So beyond Great X, beyond playing this video at Great X, we look forward to sharing it with other partners who may have waiting rooms, lobbies, think WIC office, pediatric offices, and more. So at this time, if we can dim the lights and play our video.
Did you know that learning starts at birth? And 80% of your baby's brain growth happens by age 3. Turbo Babies was created to nurture your baby's natural drive to learn and to support you as your child's first and best teacher. JWB is fueling this campaign to keep babies on track from birth to 3. Anytime is turbo time. Everyday moments offer chances for you and your baby to connect. These 4 supercharged turbo tips remind us to tune in, talk and repeat, take turns, and take time.
The diaper time? Change that diaper. Set you down. Just play with your keys. Take off the old diaper. Maybe it's with little wife. I'll put the new diaper on. Maybe we'll sing Wheels on the Bus. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. All the wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town.
There's not a wrong thing you can say. Just talk, 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 talk away.
What is this? Orange. What color is it? Orange. 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 Can you put it in the basket? What's this?
Banana.
Banana. What color is it?
Yellow.
Yellow. Can you put it in the basket? Good job. You love helping mommy shop? High five. How many bananas do you see?
1, 2, 3.
There are 3 bananas. Let's put them in the basket. What's this? What color? Green. Good job. One more. What color?
Orange.
Good job.
When we tune in, let baby lead, so much fun takes place indeed.
Can you grab the keychain? Can you grab the keychain? Oh, nice job. Oh, that's so good. You like the keys? Oh, look at the dice. Look at Miss Ray. This is an orange dice. I think that's number 3. Are you looking at the bear? Yeah, let's look at the bear. Look, teddy bear.
Bubble. Can you get it? Oh, that's so good. They're so little. Oh, you got Bubbles. You got it. Bubble. Pop. Did you say pop? Look, it's stuck on there. Pop.
Take turns means stop and give it time. It's baby's chance, so let them shine.
You ready to do letters? A, B, C. Make a circle for Gigi. That a girl. Can you make a square? Good girl. Then you make letters. What letter is that? Say C, A, T. Cat. Can you say cat? Cat. Let's do dog. D, O, G. Say dog. Good girl.
It's all about the power of play. So much to learn throughout the day.
Ready, Isla? Look at the bunny. Look at the bunny. 1, 2, 3. Look, 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 look. Can you kiss the bunny? 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, what is that?
Dinosaur.
That is, what does the dinosaur say? Let's see if we can find a dinosaur in here. Oh, look at that sheep. Look at that. It's a unicorn and it's a doggy bone. I'm gonna color the eyes blue, okay?
Okay.
You're gonna color the eyes pink. Ooh, you colored so well. When we tune in and pay attention, so many things to notice and mention.
Red car. This is also a red car. How many cars? 1, 2, 3. 3 cars. Ew. How many cars? 1, 2, 3. Yay!
It's a chance to be a kid again. Just talk and play and smile and grin.
Peekaboo.
Where is Owen?
Peekaboo.
Where's Mama?
Where is she? There she is.
Where is Mama?
Can you pull? Can you pull this? There we go. There she is. Good job.
Good job. Clap, 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 clap.
Yay.
Yay.
Today, Macy and her friends are going to have a race. Look at that.
What a nice car it is.
How exciting.
So good that I want me a car too like that.
Everyone lines up. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Ready, set,
Go.
Anytime is turbo time.
Sing.
Dance, play.
Make up a rhyme.
Tune in. Talk more.
Take turns. Take time.
Rev up your mind. It's turbo time.
Well, thank you for being our official viewing committee. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a comment. I want to say excellent video.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have the Chief Executive Officer's report by Ms. Houghton.
Thank you. Well, first, I am very pleased to introduce our new Chief Financial Officer, Robbie Stivers. A wave to the crowd, and in a minute, maybe you can say a few words. Robbie has extensive experience navigating the intricacies of government finance in top executive roles, mainly in higher education, and has a track record for demonstrating strong accountability and transparency, which make him a perfect fit for the Juvenile Welfare Board. Robbie has 20-plus years of experience, finance experience with local and state governments and public higher education. He built this on a successful banking career, which allowed him to apply the principles of sound business practices, financial management, and organizational leadership to his government finance roles. Robbie earned his BS in Business Administration from Tennessee Wesleyan University and his master's in Organizational Management from Tusculum University. He is a certified government financial manager, as granted by the Association of Government Accountants. Plus, he has early career certifications and experience in both the insurance and the banking industries. So Robbie and I will be working closely together through his first months of his tenure with JWB. And then as time goes on, you'll have the chance to spend more time with him during our individual member meetings for the Finance Committee and at Finance Committee meetings. Robbie started June 10th. So, and JWB is a lot to learn, but he is diving in and becoming valuable very quickly. So Robbie, would you like to say a few things?
Thank you for those comments. So I'm Robbie Stivers, and day 9 for me as CFO. So ask me about anything. I know everything. I've got a lot to learn for sure. Over the last 9 days, I've had the opportunity to integrate with a quality staff, high-performing staff. Certainly, I've had a lot of orientation, and we'll continue to get that, to learn systems and processes, et cetera. And we'll continue to do that. In addition to my background and so forth, take on a CFO, it starts with accountability. Certainly efficiencies and effectiveness of using public funds is the nuts and bolts of, I think, a role of a successful chief financial officer. I also think that accountability is supplemented by great communication and collaboration. I think it's very important, especially in this day and time. Reporting now is so important, especially when you're dealing with public resources, and I don't take that very lightly, so you'll always expect that from me. In addition to managing budgets and sustainability of programs and being compliant and those type things, it's also understanding the big picture. And I love Mary Grace's comments about that, you know, we can do most anything, but we can't do everything. So that's where your strategic priorities come into play, and I look forward to being a part of that process as it evolves. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of incremental steps that get you to where you want to be, but I think it'll serve you well if you do a good job on the front end. And then lastly, a little bit about me. Yes, I have an accent. I'm usually reminded of that. I grew up in southeast Kentucky, about 80 miles north of Knoxville. And Knoxville's been home since the early 90s to me, generally speaking. And I have a family of 4, two boys, one that is married and graduated from school, and he's very much into his construction engineering career. I have have a daughter-in-law and 2 precious granddaughters, one that'll turn 4 next month, and the other is about 18 months. And then my youngest son, Mason, he will be graduating from UT Knoxville in supply chain management in December, knock on wood. And he's an excellent student and looks forward to getting into his career, doing an internship this summer. And then most importantly, my spouse, Catherine, 28 years putting up with me and so forth. She's a school teacher by trade that I talked to Mr. Hendrick about, and teaches at a private school in Knoxville. So I'm thrilled. I'm excited to be here. I know that there is a lot of things about this organization that I need to learn. I look forward to doing that. I also look forward to applying my skill set and working with this board closely regarding my accountability and transparency and communication and all the things that you would expect from a CFO. Any questions? Thank you.
We, and especially I, am so glad that Robbie is here, having covered that role since March 1st. We have, as you already know, children in Pinellas County face hunger every day, and the summer months are especially challenging when schools may be closed. So we have this perfect storm that is making matters worse. The cost of food, housing, and other basic needs are rising while family incomes are not keeping up. This summer, families who rely on SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, will see $300 less per child than they did in prior years because this pandemic-initiated supplement has ended. Especially tough are the gap weeks before and after summer bridge, what we used to call summer school, but summer bridge, since many kids count on school lunches and sometimes breakfasts to keep them going. JWB and the collective impact around childhood hunger are committed to no child in Pinellas County going hungry. We've invested significantly in bulk food purchases with the St. Pete Free Clinic to distribute healthy food across the county for children across a network of food banks, pantries, and other locations. Our Childhood Hunger Collaborative continues to work collectively to make connections, to see gaps, and then to try to find ways to fill those gaps to increase access to nutrition for kids. What arose in that Childhood Hunger Collaborative was this gap that we're seeing in the times between the regular school year and summer bridge, and then another gap before school starts. And so I actually nudged our partner, the Free Clinic, to add food distributions specifically in those time periods across the county, North County, Mid-County, and South County, that were directed to families and were advertised broadly to families. So for their two of their Mid-County distributions, the Free Clinic asked if we would make our location available. And so here at the Juvenile Welfare Board, we will have two different distributions during the summer, one coming up this Saturday, and the next one, I think it's, so that's June 22nd, and then Saturday, July 20th. There will be those other events in North and South County that are all made possible by the collective and by JWB's investments. So special thanks to board members who've already signed up to volunteer this Saturday. If you haven't, but you're interested in one of those two dates, please let Becca Teeter or Olivia Bell know. And just so you know, we've also invited our legacy board members. So it will be hot, there will be water, and we'll do the best to take good care of you. It's also an opportunity for us from a media perspective to get out the word about childhood hunger. So one never knows, but we hope we do have some media coverage of those events as well. I wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate Kevin Hendrick, who was, he probably doesn't know which thing I'm going to talk about because he's a big deal. But he was recently named by the Children's Movement of Florida as a boss for babies. It's a statewide initiative, and it lifts up leaders who embrace family-focused practices and recognizing that these not only boost their workforces, but contribute to community prosperity. As our county school superintendent and a valued member of our board here at JWB, Kevin has promoted access to early childhood education, high-quality early learning for families, including pre-K 3 and VPK. He's created opportunities for young children who have an identified developmental delay through the pre-kindergarten exceptional student education program. As importantly, he offers family-focused benefits and resources to teachers and other school personnel, which not only strengthen the school system's workforce, but also all of those individual families, which leads to even greater returns on those investments down the road. So, Kevin, you share my passion about the importance of the baby's first 1,000 days and have been a strong advocate for our Turbo Babies campaign. And you and your team are longstanding partners with the Juvenile Welfare Board in the grade level reading campaign. And I'm sure I've only touched the surface. So as one boss for babies to another, it's been my pleasure to work alongside you and knowing what a strong early childhood advocate that you are. So congratulations. I was thrilled a few weeks ago to tour the new Spear YMCA in St. Petersburg alongside JWB board member Melissa Rutland, who is there along with David Jezik, the CEO of the YMCA of St. Petersburg. The concept is unique because this Y is co-located with Mangrove Bay Middle School, which will open this fall for the first time. The bold vision of a bustling new Y connected to a new public school represents an innovative and a unique collaborative opportunity and the first of its kind in Tampa Bay. This shared campus can simultaneously address the larger needs of their students, their families, and the surrounding community. By teaming up, Pinellas County Schools and the YMCA of St. Petersburg can eliminate barriers to access and bring low-income and high-income families together, all while promoting health, education, and social equity. So we applaud the school system and the YMCA for their shared commitment to 100% school success, and we know how much commitment it takes on everyone's part to make this kind of bold collaboration work. So congratulations again to Kevin and to our partner, the YMCA of St. Petersburg. May was Mental Health Awareness Month, and JWB supported several activities as part of our Children's Mental Health Initiative. On May 18th, we participated as a vendor and as a team of staff during the NAMI Walks Pinellas County event that drew 400 attendees. Our walking team called themselves JWB Kind, which is pretty cute. In May, JWB also collaborated with Pinellas County in the launch of a new service called Care About Me that will make it easier for residents to access behavioral health services through a confidential access line. Care About Me eliminates that guesswork. Individuals with non-crisis needs can call in, speak directly to an experienced behavioral health specialist who can triage their needs, understand what level of service they need, and then actually online or while that call is going on, schedule an appointment with a local provider that works and meets the criteria not only of the caller's needs, but also of their availability, time of day, geographically, and so on. The program began a soft launch, I think, in February, and then is fully open in May, and we're really looking forward to it providing access for families, for children, for others for the right level of care, the right place, at the right time, and reduce waiting lists and time delays that so many people have experienced. JWB is a member of the Pinellas Integrated Care Alliance, or PICA, which is comprised of Pinellas County government, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, the Florida Department of Health, Pinellas, and JWB. In addition, next week, we will be facilitating mental wellness activities during College for Kids that is hosted by the St. Petersburg College. So while on the topic of children's mental health, I'd like to share that Becky Albert was recently promoted from Senior Manager to Director of Strategic Initiatives. Becky's been with us since 2010, and she's led JWB's Children's Mental Health Initiative for the last 4+ years, growing the number of pediatric practices, partners, and children screened and receiving services. Congratulations to Becky. It's well-deserved, and the work continues. We just wish we could clone her. That would be ideal. This evening, JWB will once again lend our expertise to the St. Pete Free Clinic's Community Dialogue Series. The event will focus on the importance of addressing social determinants of health, including healthcare, food security, and policy for a child's positive development and to promote health equity in our community. This is co-hosted by Johns Hopkins All Children's, and the panel includes Dr. Suzanne Isley of Johns Hopkins All Children's, Kimberly Brown-Williams of Achieving Equity Together, Shana Bent of the St. Pete Free Clinic, and our own Becca Teeter, Director of Public Policy here at JWB. I'm sure it will be a meaningful discussion and we will be well represented. The book bus is ready to roll. So since 2016, the school board has been gracious to partner with us on the summer book bus. That is an initiative that was born from, born from our grade level reading campaign to combat summer learning loss and instill a love of reading for kids. Last year, we gave away 10,000 books to 5,000 kids at 70 stops across the county. Thanks to our dedicated volunteers, many of whom were board members and other community leaders. Having volunteered and done this, it's just fun to help a young child find a book that they love and put it in their hands, that it's really theirs. So while the school board focuses on school locations and where school-age kids are, we focus on primarily the younger kids who are at various and sundry early learning centers or pre-K locations. So we're back on the road for the first 3 weeks of July, and we're scheduled this year to make 76 stops. If you're interested in volunteering, you can, again, contact either Becca or Olivia, who can help you select a date and a book bus stop location. And that's all I have for today, unless there are any questions.
Next, we're at our informational items. Do we have any comments? Okay, and so we will do our milestones by Mr. Bartlett.
All right, May anniversaries, we got Daciel Medina, 1 year. Jacqueline Santos, 1 year. Nehemiah Warner, 1 year. Susan Parker, 1 year. Julia Bergen, 3 years. Sarah Smith, 3 years. Kelly Grossman, 5 years. Stacy Gill, 5 years. Richard Godfrey, 11 years. And Laura Peel, 31 years. Wow.
Laura's been with us 31 years, and you might recognize her and her daughter, our son-in-law, and Owen from the Turbo Babies video. Thank you.
We're at open agenda. Any comments, concerns from the open agenda part of it? Anybody want to say anything? Well, good. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second,
All right.
third, fourth.
Thank you guys for coming.